Today's speaker is the amazing Ramona Schwering. She is the developer advocate at Auth0 and is also a software engineer with roots in quality assurance. She owns both views of the product, that of a tester and a developer. Ramona primarily uses this to strengthen trust in test automation and support testers and developers alike, becoming a Google developer expert in web technologies, Women Techmaker Ambassador, and Cypress Ambassador. Ramona, it's an honor to have you with us today.
And the stage is yours.
Thank you so much for this hot, warm welcome. I'm so happy to be with you this time, and thank you so much. Lots of love to you. And it makes it even better that I'm talking about a topic which is close to my heart as well, which is accessibility. And the first point of being accessible is that I'm able to join from Germany. So thank you so much for having me. I will share my screen in a little bit. If you cannot see it, just send help. I will not directly share my slides though, because there's a question I want to ask you beforehand. So please raise your hand or throw an emoji or let me know if you know about the game Portal. It's a pretty old game. It's one of the first Steam games, actually. So I'm excited to see if people know about it. If not, that's not a problem at all. I will share the story of the game with you because it's a wonderful allegory on accessibility, and it's connected to one of my, let's say, interesting experiences where I needed to basically consider my own viewpoint and what I do not know. But I get to that in a bit. I see one person knows about Portal, but it's no problem if you don't know the game. As that, like, I will take you with the journey, you will learn about the game, and it's a super big recommendation to play it. It's a puzzle platformer, basically. So if you're into logical riddles, which are decorated with some sarcastic, sassy humor, you might like it. But I digress already. Let me quickly share my slides so we can get going. My presentation is called The Cake is a Lie, and this is one of the vital quotes of this game. And I will not disclose the meaning of this quote yet, but one thing which is maybe a good thing, unfortunately, even if I would be with you in person, I will not bake you a cake because I cannot pass you a cake which doesn't fit my quality requirements. I'm not that good at either cooking or baking. But yes, the cake is a lie, or in other words, our accessibility is a lie. This is not a thing we want to be known for, right? Especially in workflows as crucial as authentication. If people cannot log in to your application, you're literally locking people up. So yes, how can we hopefully not be that person who claims something for the application which is just not the truth or not the truth we think, like the cake in the game. Well, we'll get to that in a bit. Let's start imagining the story. Maybe if you want to, you can close your eyes, but you don't need to. So just imagine this situation. You're waking up. You were sleeping inside of your flat, inside of your bed, like nothing's unusual. But you're waking up and you don't have any memories on how you got into this room. It's not really cozy, right? So this is the room we wake up in. The radio plays some music, and after a few seconds, a computer-ish voice, so to say, welcomes you. And it basically cites information and seemingly important security information, but you just feel confused because you don't know this room. If you know about the Portal game, you might recognize this room. If not, that's not a problem because it adds to your confusion in this regard. So the computer voice, I would read it as female because it sounds pretty close to a Siri-like voice to say like that. Um, as said, it's citing security information, and you might think this information is important, right? But if it gets to the vital point, it either blanks out or uses a language you don't understand. In my case, for example, it's Spanish, but even if you could understand it, you cannot make sense of it. It basically says like, please refrain from many failures because of failure things. So yeah, all of this doesn't help you with the confusion. You feel left out. You feel without any sense of orientation. And this is a hurdle you cannot cross. This feeling inside of this room is the same feeling if you use an inaccessible app without having a disability, while having a disability. And this is one of the reasons why I choose this depiction of the clean but confusing room. And the person who wrote about portal inside of the check might already recognize that this is not a random situation. It's basically the starting point of the Portal game. It's a pretty old game. It's from 2007 and published by Valve, and it's a first-person puzzle platformers. And in this game, you basically try to find your way out of the facility you woke up in by crossing some rooms, which is basically the levels, called test chambers. And those chambers have some platforms, have some hurdles, and thus you need to jump through those hurdles to basically pass and get the cake this computer voice was promising you. And this game has like the completion of all the test chamber is the goal, and the reward is a promise of receiving cake upon completion next to your freedom. And if we think about this game, building an accessible app might feel exactly like crossing those test chambers. And I want to cross those test chambers together with you. So, the room we woke up in, it's basically if you put this concept of this test chamber, which might have hurdles or traps or accessibility traps in those. The first room, the room we spawn in, is basically the situation we're in. In the real world, it is the real life situation. So let's zoom in on the situation at hand when it comes to accessibility. So the test facility is basically the application, and the accessibility, the reward is the cake. So having a truly accessible app is the cake, that's the reward. And obviously the knowledge we overcame, like we gained while overcoming all those chambers is as well. And if we raise it to the meta level, the building portals, like how to cross those rooms by teleporting things or ourselves, is building bridges and pathway to get to this goal of accessibility and never leaving anyone behind. But what does that mean exactly when it comes to being accessible? Where do we need to make sure to take an eye on when it comes to not leaving anyone behind or locking them out of our application? So this image is often quoted if we want to define accessibility, or basically the lack thereof and the reasons for it. And the most important part to keep into your mind, your head, is that disability is a spectrum. So you can see I'm wearing glasses right now. I'm not blind. I'm capable to see. However, if I go to check up at my doctors and they put in some of these like eye drops inside of my eyes to widen the pupils, or however it's called in English right now, I am super sensitive to light, and this makes me unable to read a screen. So this way, I have a temporary blindness. This could also happen if I carry my child. In this case, I cannot use my hands or touch things, which makes me situational, not able to touch. Or if I'm in a loud environment, or if I'm not able to listen to my phone because I'm going public transit. And in Germany or in Asia, even more, you are not allowed to be loud inside of the train. So this makes me situationally deaf, basically. So yes, disability is not only permanent, like being blind or deaf or not able to speak or touch because we're missing an arm. It can be temporary or situational, and that makes us all susceptible to being disabled at some point. So if you don't think about accessibility inside of your application, you will lock out anyone, basically. So yes, the cake is a lie. In this regard, I'd say when it comes to the famous quote of the line where the cake was always promised but not quite the cake we expected, it is the same for accessibility as well, especially when it comes to the regulations. I guess in America, it's the American with Disability Act, and in Europe, we were actually later than the people in America to regulate it. It's the European Accessibility Act. So, especially people who say we claim to fulfill these regulations, we sometimes say we tick all the boxes, but are we really accessible? Is the cake, the accessibility we provide really meant? I don't want to be that one where it's not the case. So to make a visual and to let you know that it's not that difficult to truly be accessible, I brought you some sample application. So it is simple by purpose. It's built in React and Vite. And here you can find all the examples of my talks. I have two branches. The main branch is already fixed, and you can see the solutions of all the things I'm doing here. And the don't branch, hopefully the name is self-explanatory enough, is the starting point of this talk. Just don't do these things inside of the don't branch, please. And I don't want to be like a weird teacher being virtual. So the first actually test chamber, the first level we need to cross to become accessible, we'll get our companion cube, our best ally into the game to help people, for example, visual impairments, to access your application. It's about the screen reader. But no worries, if you know about Portal, where we were forced to not treat our companion that well, in real world, we will treat it great, we will keep it, we will treat it better, we will keep our companion with us. So that's super important. All right, as I say, inside of my live demo I'm doing in a little bit, we will use a screen reader. And because I have a MacBook here, it is the default voiceover feature, which is basically built in. I'm pretty sure that Windows or Linux have screen readers as well, so the short keys might be different ones, but I guess the fixes I'm doing shouldn't be that different. Anyway, a voiceover or any screen reader will describe aloud what appears on your computer screen. And it will speak all the text of its document, and Windows basically read aloud what they would see. Like Portal's companion cube, it accompanies us and helps us. And let me quickly switch to my demo. There we go. Hopefully it's still working. I was testing it, but let's pray to the live demo gods because sometimes they have weird ways, right? Well, yes, so you can enable it by going Command F5. And if you don't hear sound when I enable it, and I hopefully not talk that much over it, just let me know. I can see the chat right now as well, so hopefully I learn. So if you want, close your eyes and just try to listen, try to act like you cannot read the screen. And I will do a mistake in this, in this login form by purpose.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Login accessibility. Google Chrome username. Password secure text field. You are currently on a text field. Link. Forgot password. Login button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option space.
I'm clicking right now. Awkward silence. Yes. As you hear nothing. For us being able to see, we know that we were not able to log in. Let me quickly
Login accept voiceover off.
so it will not interrupt me speaking. So if you cannot see the screen because you're blind or you're sensitive to light or whatever reasons you have, you might not be aware that you were not able to log in, obviously, because I didn't enter any data. But even if you would know because you're still on the login form, you're not like on the dashboard or wherever you want to be navigated to, you still don't know what happened. So what's the error? So let me sum that up real quick. The user is not informed when there's an error with the login form. It's neither informed with fields are required, even if it seems obvious to us, it's not for them. When selecting the input fields here, they don't know which of the fields are invalid or wrong, and the error message here underneath has no relationship to the input field. So if we cannot see that the error message belongs to the username or the password. And last one, we are using placeholder as labels, which is not how it's called, accessible for a screen reader. I guess you know what I'm talking about, but a screen reader cannot identify the password field or username also because of the lack of a label. Okay, let's switch to my this is not the one I wanted to go for. Let me quickly search. That was basically conference files. So my slides I want to share. So there we go. So this is my sample app. Let's see what's wrong in that one. So to learn about it a little bit, there's like 3 files we want to work on. The first is the alert, which is basically this general error message. Then the input fields, which are here basically. This is both for the username and the password. I used it as React components. I'm passing some important properties onto it, such as the required handling, which might be important later. And last but not least, there's the login itself, the form, which is here. You can see the input component being used for the username here, the password here. And yes, these are the 3 parts where we need to fix stuff. At first, I want to go for the general error message. So this login error, which doesn't help us at all, right? So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and think about, okay, how can we make this alert better? And ideally, there would be a semantic HTML element. We will get to them a little later, but they're basically specifying what this element will do. But we cannot do it here, so we'll go for a role attribute instead. So this will basically tell the screen reader that this is an alert. So that way, the screen reader will be able to identify the general error message correctly. Let's test this real quick. Hopefully it was taken over. I will enable the screen reader and let it talk to us.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Login accessibility. Link. Forgot pass. Login button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option Space. Login error.
Yay! So
VoiceOver off.
it was telling us that our login error and correctly recognized the main error message. But there's still things to do, like these separate fields, right? So let's go to those. And yes, I do have the native requirement handling in here, passing down the required property to have it for both input fields, maybe password and username. But this can be lackluster because you are dependent on the native browser handling, and oftentimes it will not work correctly with the screen reader. So we need some kind of custom one, and I will do a simple form of this here. And therefore, we will go to this input field, which is being used for it. And in it, let's use the ARIA required tag. This way, we can make the attribute, the screen reader, to read the field as required. And I will assign it to the required property so it's streamlined and passed down reactively. But this is not good enough for me right now, so I want this field to be marked as invalid as well. And therefore, we can go for the ARIA tag called invalid. So it will distinguish if we leave the field empty, or if we use some special characters, it can identify this as invalid, or if it's only the wrong password. Therefore, I guess I want to make it dependent on the error message. So in case there's an error message, I assume that there's an error, right? So yes, if there's an error message, I assume it's invalid. If there's no error message, I guess everything's fine. But I want to do that thing as well, which is basically connecting those simple error messages to the corresponding field. And therefore, we can go for ARIA described by. So lots of ARIA checks right now. There we go. And again, I want it to be dependent on the error message. So if there's an error message, are there any certificates like CPAC or AVS that you think are worth using for front-end developers? That's an interesting question. I hope it's okay if I put it to the side for the Q&A later, because of focus. So in case there's an error message, I would like to assign it to the error message itself, which is here. So I'm going for the ID. This way we can basically identify it. And if there's no error message, I assume everything's fine, right? And I guess I will have some syntax error, right? Let's quickly check where I have it. I guess it's the blank here. Yes, this should be okay. And last but not least, this is a quick fix because it's inside of the error message. I don't want to have it as a placeholder, but as a label. So let's quickly change that one. And then let's see if the reality filter is on our side. So if it was really fixing it, I will double check if I really saved all of my files, because sometimes this is a problem. Okay, let's see. Right now, I would enter a username so we can see that it's correctly, if I leave the password blank, it's correctly linked to the password field. And then let's let the companion cube or screen reader talk.
VoiceOver on Chrome. Link. Forgot password. Login button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option Space.
Doing exactly that.
Login error.
So it recognized the general error message, but we already know that. I will go to the password field now.
Link. Password. This field should not be blank. Required invalid data. Secure text field. Username. Required menu pop-up. Edit text. You are currently on a text. VoiceOver off.
Yay! So this way, the screen reader correctly recognized that this error message belongs to the password field, that it's invalid. So it's empty. That's not a incorrect password, and that the username is fine. So yay! That wasn't too much of an effort, right? So those things to get a screen reader work alongside you, it's not too much of a lift, I think, which is cool. Okay, let me quickly change back to my slides because I brought you a little more. And if you're interested for even more like UX related stuff, I will have some in my slides. I have a more designer facing version of this talk as well. So if we got a little time left later on, let me know in the chat later. We can take a look at things I might have left out for this developer focused one. But I digress already. I'm still not completely satisfied with the error handling, right? Like login error, full stop. So our second test chamber, a second level inside of this game, is tweaking the error handling even more. So yes, I don't like the login error message. It does not tell the user what the problem is, and even the specific field error messages could basically refer to any field and don't offer any solution to the user. And the third problem I have is the colors. And this is how my anecdote, if you say that in English, my funny story about me screwing up accessibility comes into place, because the second installment of Portal has a co-op mode, and I was playing it with a good friend of mine. He was a streamer, so it was on stream, which makes it even more embarrassing. And well, they do teleport stuff to solve those puzzles, those test chambers. And it's basically like doors. So you place doors inside of the room, and it's always two. And the second player I was playing had a red door and an orange door. We can say it like that. And my friend always told me to place the bright red door. And I, naive as I was, I placed the red one. Can you guess what happened? Well, he meant the orange one because he was colorblind. And that's the point. We can never be sure that a person sees colors the same way we do. So this way, having this red border is super difficult for people being colorblind. They cannot see that the field is wrong, right? So let's tweak it a little bit more. In the alert message, I would like to state what the reason for the error is and how to solve it. For example, unable to log in, please fill in all required fields. Same for the field error messages as well, provide instructions on what to fill in, not just say should not be blank. For example, please enter your username if the username has been empty. And last but not least, I would like to have you use icons as well for people who cannot see those borders because of being colorblind. And that way we have it. But there's a caveat we really need to keep inside of your mind. You shouldn't overshare information inside of your error message as well. For example, if you have the feature of retrieving a password and someone enters their email, and your error message basically says, or confirmation message is the same thing. Okay, we sent an email to this email address. An attacker would notice then that the email address exists inside of your system. So be really careful not to invite the attackers in by providing too much information. And this is a delicate balance to basically meet. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that one later, maybe if you're open to share how you would craft those error messages to not overshare, but still provide enough information for the user to help them log in. I already talked about it slightly while doing my hands-on, but I want to highlight some semantic HTML as my third test chamber, third level as well. So those are semantic HTML tags or HTML elements. And those kind of HTML elements basically use those tags to define the meaning and structure of web content. Instead of going for a whole army of divs, call it header if it's your header element. Nav for the navigation, a figure for an image or a graphic, and the caption to add the caption to this figure. So make it more understandable for both humans and also search engines, which might come in handy when it comes to Google search ranks. So instead of just relying on generic tags or even only a role attribute as we did with the error message, try to use the right HTML element for the right purpose. Another one, the next test chamber, is super interesting not only for people having motoric impairments or a screen reader, but also us as, for example, I'm a power user when it comes to keyboard. I love to do everything by keyboard. And if we keep accessibility for keyboard navigation in hand, I'd be super happy. It's like those swift corners of the pavement, if you know what I mean, if they are like a little more rounded, so you can use them with a wheelchair. Those are also wonderful if you carry a suitcase, even if you're not disabled. So same for keyboard navigation. It's not only great for people having impairments, but also for us people to have it more convenient, right? Okay, keyboard navigation. Here, inside of my demo application, the focus indication is super hard to see. Or in other words, it activates the native outline and only changes the border color on focus. And it's even worse for the login button here because, oh, I'm a little too fast. It doesn't have any focus indication at all. You cannot know that you're basically on the login button now. So yes, I'm a fan of going for outline. I'm not a fan of going for outline none because it doesn't help you navigate your page with your keyboard. You could go for the outline property instead. So basically using a little more, okay, I'm already a little too fast. Sometimes I hate animations. So basically adding some offset. So the visibility is increased by this small margin. In my application, this would look like this. It's super obvious that right now I'm on my focus on the username and here on the login button. Next test chamber is more specific on authentication because lots of those things we did before are important for login form, but also more general advice you can basically use for any part of your application. These ones are super specific for authentication. And if we go to the theory, the law basis, there's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, so WCAG, helping us to know what we should do. And I keep it real short. They have two success criterions for accessibility. And right now we're just looking on the minimal one. So to basically fulfill the legal requirements being the minimal level, it's called AA, which is the base of all the regulation we have, no matter if it's American or European. So yes, success criterion 338 is important for accessible authentication. And let's dive into it. The first one is the first advice I want you to keep in mind when building your applications, never ever disable copy-paste functionality. So this useful auto copy-paste, especially when working with password managers. Password managers are not only for convenience. If you have cognitive or motoric disabilities, it is a lifesaver. So don't disable this one. I note that there was it's too far-fetched to say it's a security issue, but there were click-checking attacks in the past where they had like a malicious website and some hidden input fields listening on auto copy paste. But even providers such as 1Password did a statement in blog post saying you shouldn't disable copy paste functionality because it's still more secure to have them in place, especially if the alternative of going by post-its passwords basically, but also more accessible. So even with the click checking attack, please keep it online. Then you should always think about the biometric authentication or any device capabilities such as Face ID, fingerprint, and leveraging them if you can. And of course, they are not perfect. For example, if you have injuries inside of your face and there's a disease changing your eye color, but it is a wonderful starting point and you need to provide alternatives. So my favorite one is passkeys because it will directly use those device functionalities and it's a gold standard and pretty phishing resistant. But there's always other passwordless options as well, such as the magic link you might already stumble upon using Slack. So you will get a email sent to you and then log in via link or the OTPs, but they're sometimes a little tricky. There's one really important point for the success criterion in accessible authentication, and it's this one. And I don't know, I cannot see you right now, but I'm pretty sure you have been annoyed by a CAPTCHA before, right? So the accessible authentication criterion we're talking about right now still allows you to go for this classic CAPTCHAs if they are as simple as possible, but still, please always avoid object recognitions, especially if you need to choose which image you provided, or if you need to answer a question you need to remember. If you have cognitive disabilities, this might be super difficult for you. Or if you have a different concept, for example, when it comes to vegetables, you might not be able to see that a tomato is not a vegetable. Or if you see pictures of vegetables not native to your region, you might get into trouble. So yes, be really careful on that one. Better go for hidden CAPTCHAs such as Google reCAPTCHA, which are more risk-based, thus trying to monitor the user's behavior, the ID, the click patterns, and if the risk is too high, they will block. And this CAPTCHA in specific I took from a wonderful demo. It's a game called I Am Not a Robot. Please try it out after this talk and let me know how far you got, because it will have CAPTCHAs as level and they will be increasingly annoying. And I'd really be interested to know how long you made it through without being rage quitting, basically. Then I want to talk about some things when it comes to MFA, multi-factor authentication. And please don't get me wrong, it's super important. You provide options to people. It makes it more safe because you have more than just one factor in place. It's not only the password we know, but maybe the face we have, or like our authenticator app, so something we physically possess. But there's still some things, especially for people with cognitive disabilities or motoric, if you cannot type that fast, some things to take into account, especially if you go for an SMS or authentication app code, OTPs, one-time passcodes or passwords. Be really generous when it comes to the time limits. So it's generous enough for users with those cognitive or motor disabilities so they're able to enter the code. And even better, again, allow auto copy paste. For example, I remember my phone already suggesting me the code that was sent by SMS. So this is super cool and helpful for those people. Other things which might be super important for MFA is a clear progress indication, so you know how many steps to do especially when setting up your authenticator app, for example. And speaking of an authenticator app, I know that it's not always to be completely avoided, but avoid context switching where possible, because this reduces cognitive load as well. And last but not least, especially if you like set up MFA right now and you need to scan a QR code to get it going inside of your authenticator app, for example, you should be aware that QR codes are not always accessible because people need to be able to scan it, right? So always provide the text-based secret key as an alternative. May it be for people who are not able to hold a second device right now or who need to use a screen reader. And last but not least, go for type password. I forgot to mention this in my hands-on, because if you don't specify the type password in your input field, the screen reader might read aloud your password, which is maybe not intended. So if you don't want to build it completely on your own, you could consider going for a component library such as our very own universal components, which are there in React right now. It's beta status, so maybe just take a look at it. It's open source. I would love to hear what you think about it. That much for shout out. Some more general things I wanted to talk about, but I guess I'm already running out of time, is you should avoid flashing animations for people who are epileptic, for example. Try to go as vanilla as possible, especially when it comes to HTML, so a screen reader will have it easier to interpret your code. Images should have alt text describing those images for the screen reader, and there's lots of things. Skipping optional content, for example, so a non-vision person, let's put it like that, is not overwhelmed by the complete flood of your website and will figure out which is most important directly, maybe even going for the main tag. So yes, there's lots of things you could take a look at. And there's still the extended criterion of the WCAG, which is 339, which is similar but way stricter and completely, for example, forbidding you to use a CAPTCHA. But I digress. I'm already super happy if you go for the normal minimal WCAG criterion, so we can make sure that the cake is not a lie, at least from the game, but also that putting it into the real life, that our accessibility is not a lie, that we're just not just ticking checkboxes and really try to include all of our users. So the web stays an accessible place for everyone, especially important in such vital workflow as the looking for. So thank you so much for helping me, helping you, help us all. Thank you so much. And I will open up the floor for the questions. Thank you. I see the hearts.
Thank you so much, Ramona. Amazing talk.
Thank you, Ramona. It was extremely helpful to understand what actually we need to implement and think about it. We have a couple of really interesting questions from Sophia. So the first question is, are there any certification like CPA, CC, or WAS that you think they are worth pursuing for front-end developers?
This is an interesting question because, like, I wouldn't say that certificates are not worth it. So they are wonderful proof for, especially when it comes to regulation. Sometimes, if you go for the public offices, I'm not completely sure how it's called in English, but like all those institutions, they might require them. But personally, sometimes if there's a certificate, especially now with AI, the knowledge they may teach you might be outdated, or you can better go for like free knowledge so you don't need to pay money for it. And I do think when it comes to advancing in accessible focused work, such as like all-running work, try to learn in public. Go for a GitHub repo. Don't be shy to share your work and let people know that you learn. I guess that will help you advance way further. But yes, the only exception where I'd say certifications might be important are like regulation things. If you need to adhere to those things, sometimes you just need those. At least in Germany, but Germany is super strict when it comes to anything paper related. So I'm not completely sure if it's the same for America. But yeah, in this regard, public work, like public administration, there it might be important.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. The other question is, do you think certification really help in getting a roles or advancing in accessibility focusing work?
Pretty similar to my prior answer. I do think it helps you more to learn in public. Being a like advocate for accessibility, show what you learn. Don't be shy to just show your process. And that way, it's basically trying to get visibility for the right topics, if you know what I mean. So if you are there, maybe writing a blog post or doing a GitHub repo, people will see that you are not a risk because they can see how you work.
Amazing. The last question is, what is the best way to go from basic knowledge to actually applying accessibility confidentially in real project?
I guess for me, the most important way is trying to like take a look at the project or websites which I know are pretty accessible and trying to figure out which tool to use to basically see the paper trail or the trail what they did to be accessible. Maybe like now we went with screen readers, this is the most basic things, or going for DevTools, which has some wonderful accessibility features built in, maybe the lighthouse audit, but also like small things like you can inspect your text and see if the contrast of the text is good enough to be accessible or not. So trying to just see what yeah, basically what they did and trying to apply it to your own projects and be just professionally curious about that. So trying to know how it works out and trying to dissect it.
Thank you. We have one more question for Delia. What was the game you mentioned that is CAPTCHA flow gets more frustrating as you go through in levels? It sounds fun and annoying at the same time.
It is, it is. So it's called I Am Not a Robot. Let me quickly check. I guess it's this one. So stop sign. What is the stop sign here? And is this small is it already? Nah. So it's super annoying to hit the stop sign here. Hopefully I was able. No. So it will not get you through those captures. So let's see if I can go. Ah, so yes, it's called Not a Robot. And it's super annoying. I made it, I guess, 17 without being like, okay, I need to stop because otherwise my patience will be super tested. And you can see here, I hope I can zoom in a little bit, a point which annoys me with those captures, even though I am pretty okay when it comes to my vision. But do you see this little corner here or this little rift? I'm not completely sure if it belongs to it or not. So that makes it super annoying. So I need to hit the mo. So you see it's super annoying. And it will be increasingly bad. You should share it. It's fun, but yeah, at some point you will be rage quitting.
Well, thank you so much. Looking through the chat and I don't see more questions. I do want to share that that was amazing session. Amazing. Very insightful, very technical on. And I think that for us as a society, we need to understand more how we can impact everyone and support them. We should make sure that, yes, we should make sure that everybody is welcome and have accessibility to our work. Thank you, Ramona. It's been an honor to have you at Frontend Queens event. And thank you for everyone joining us today.